Whew. Hello, my name is Thomas, and today I wanted to talk about something that I wanted to talk about for a long time, actually. If you are in your mid to late 30s, like I am, and you are feeling unfulfilled in your life, like you're lacking meaning or purpose, it's possible that you are going through a third life crisis. Now, to talk about my own personal experience with the third life crisis, let's rewind to summer of 2021. I was 35 years old at the time, and my career in tech was just starting to take off. I was making a good salary. I had paid off all of my bad debts, student loans, my car. I had enough money left over after every month to save, to invest, travel, indulge in hobbies, whatever. I also had closed on my apartment, the same apartment I am sitting in right now. I know that I should have felt probably joy or happiness because honestly, I had accomplished a lot, especially considering that just a few years before then, I was literally working a retail job and trying to figure out how to get my life on track. But in a quiet moment, as I was sitting in this very chair and looked around my big apartment, I realized that I didn't really feel much of anything. No joy, no happiness. In fact, I think I felt the opposite. I felt like something was missing. I felt like there was something within me that was empty and still had to be filled. Now, I'm not someone who never has negative thoughts or feelings, but I am generally someone who, when I do have negative thoughts or feelings, they don't really linger. They tend to go away pretty quickly. And when this feeling didn't go away quickly, I realized it was something deeper and more serious. I realized I was going through a life crisis. So I was too old to be having a quarter life crisis, and I already had went through that in my 20s. And I wasn't old enough to be having a midlife crisis, which generally hits people in their 40s, and you need to be married and have kids. And I wasn't married and didn't have any kids. So if I wasn't experiencing a quarter life crisis or a midlife crisis, then what was I experiencing? Well, to me, I labeled it a third life crisis. It was something in between. And a third life crisis is when someone, generally in their mid to late 30s, they're deviating from that traditional life path of being married and having kids. And because of that, they feel unfulfilled. They feel like they are lacking meaning and purpose. They are forced to try and find that within themselves, which is very, very difficult. And that is at the heart of what a third life crisis is. What I realized was that even though I'd hit all of these major markers or milestones of adulthood, like having the nice job that paid well, having my own apartment and space, that because I wasn't on that other traditional path of being married and having kids, that I didn't really have anything to live for except myself. I think for me, there were three events that triggered the third life crisis. The first was that, like I said, I felt like I had finally reached adulthood. I had the nice job and I bought my own apartment. Like I had made it, right? And that's what society tells us we should work really hard to try to get. But after that, society doesn't really tell you what you should do after, maybe except getting married and having kids. And that brings us to the second factor, which was that right around this time, many of my friends were starting to have kids. And naturally, as human beings, we look and we compare ourselves, and it seemed like that's what they had. That's what made them happy. And they seemed to be fulfilled. And I didn't have that. And the third and last thing was right around this time was when my friend Eric passed from a heart attack. And that forced an existential reckoning for me. It forced me to confront the question of what exactly am I living for? If life isn't always going to go as we plan, and if life isn't always going to be as long as we think it is, then that brings up a really difficult question when you're faced with it. What exactly are you living for? Now, I'm not saying that the traditional life path of being married and having kids is easy. In fact, it's the opposite. It's really hard. It's quite possibly one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life. It is physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausting. You are essentially juggling your responsibilities as someone with a full time job, trying to maintain relations with your spouse, all the things you need to do as a parent, and also you need to maintain some semblance of cleanliness and order within a household. It is an unending cycle of errands and chores, as well as familial obligations such as all the holidays, Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, making sure that your kids see their grandparents. As far as the kids themselves, well, there are swim classes, play dates, tutoring sessions, sports classes, all types of things that take priority over your wants and needs and your hobbies. I think a good metaphor for that traditional life path of being married and having kids is a lot like jumping into these waters and trying to swim to the other side. I can tell these waters are probably frigid. The waves might be choppy on a bad day, and the currents may be strong. If I or you were to find ourselves in this situation where we were trying to get to the other side, the goal is pretty clear. We just need to keep swimming. We need to keep our head above water and not drown. I would say marriage is very much like that in the sense that it is so busy and so exhausting in every single way that you really don't have the time to stop and think about what is my purpose or meaning in life. That traditional life path of being married and having kids comes with built in purpose. Your purpose is to take care of your family, and everything you do derives meaning from that purpose and end goal. In that regard, that is what is easy or simple or handed to you about the traditional life path of getting married and having kids. It comes with built in purpose and meaning. It's simply everything else about being married and having kids that's hard. Now, I'm not saying that the concept of a third life crisis is some sort of grand original idea. I think that people have probably felt this way for quite a while. I just think that I'm the first person to label it and to describe it and to put things into context. So here's one example. This is a post I found on Reddit, and it's a woman posting, and she titled the post, Just Another Lonely Woman in Her Mid 30s. My life feels so empty. I go to work where I have a few acquaintances to talk to occasionally, and then I come home to complete silence with no one around. No partner, no close friends to hang out with. I can't help but feel how lonely it all is. Sometimes I wonder why I even exist. It feels like I'm just here to work and then disappear into the background. Wow, pretty deep stuff there. It's very clear to me that this person who posted this feels a lack of meaning and purpose, and they're probably going through a third life crisis. I do feel that my generation, millennials, are probably the first generation to experience a third life crisis in mass. Many people in my generation are now in their mid to late 30s, even early 40s. Many of us are either unmarried or without children. So naturally, that just makes sense. Without moving on to that next stage in life, it's hard to find purpose and meaning. And to be clear, there are a myriad of reasons that have contributed to people not ending up in relationships, not getting married, not having children. There's a ton of societal and cultural shifts that have led to this end result. And that's going to be largely what my book is going to cover. My book is going to be about the third life crisis, all the things that are causing it, and, well, how to move past it. One thing that's not in question is that all the data, the figures, and the statistics show that less people are ending up in relationships. Less people are ending up married. Less people are having kids. It's very clear to me that the third life crisis is an end result of people failing to form families and to move on to that next stage in life. So, if you are going through a third life crisis, then what should you do? How do you move past it? Well, the simplest way to get past a third life crisis is to get married and have kids. Being married and having kids comes with built in purpose and meaning, and you essentially get to kick that can down the road for a decade or so until you hit your midlife crisis. I genuinely believe that human beings were meant to take care of others. And there's lots of ways to take care of others. You can take care of your parents, your siblings, your relatives, your friends, even your community. But I don't think any of those will feel the same or as fulfilling as taking care of and providing for a child. And when I say this is what humans were meant to do, I don't mean like in a spiritual or woo-woo way. I mean like in a primal, biological, like evolutionary way. I simply believe it's human instinct, or maybe animal instinct, to want to take care of your young. I mean, animals exhibit the same instinct as well, and human beings are just animals after all. The only difference is we're animals capable of higher thought and rationalization, and because of that, we overthink and complicate a lot of things. But that instinct to take care of kids is what essentially ensure the survival of our species. Now, I know getting married and having kids is hard. It requires at least one other person. I've been trying to do it in some fashion, find a partner for the past 4 years, and I haven't succeeded yet. So, if you can't do that, then what can you do? I think a lot of people naturally dive deeper into their jobs or their careers. And that's because in your 30s, your career starts to take off anyway. And beyond that, if you are working full time, then working really takes up pretty much half of your waking hours. So I think it's natural for people to dive deeper into their careers. However, I really don't recommend that. I don't think most people will find meaning or purpose within their job or their careers. Another thing you can try to do is to do something that makes an impact on the world and leaves something positive behind. So for me, a lot of the motivation to start this channel and make videos and talk about these topics is because I wanted to do something positive and share my thoughts, ideas, and experiences with others. It's really the motivation for me making a lot of these videos. And as for me personally, have I gotten past my third life crisis? Me personally, I feel like I've mostly gone past it. My advice to anyone going through a third life crisis is you have to continue to live. So continue to do the things you want to do the things that bring you some joy. So that means travel to the places you've always wanted to go, cross things off your bucket list, try new things, try new foods, try to find pleasure and joy in big things and little things. Spend time with your family and friends. If you have friends like me who have children, spend time with them. I promise you it will feel really rewarding to spend time with kids. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this topic of a third life crisis. If you're going through one yourself, leave a comment. Happy to give you tips or advice. And if you've made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one. Until then, take care of yourself, and if you can, someone else too.